If you are a Warriors fan, you have already felt this mixture of hope and frustration in recent weeks. Because every time it seems like the team is going to hit the ground running, a new detail emerges that changes the course of the story. And now, pay attention. A shocking update has just dropped, with behind-the-scenes details that explain what's really being planned and what's coming next. In less than a minute, I'll show you what's changed, why it matters, and how this news could redefine the Warriors season. Before I show you the details that just emerged and what they reveal about the Warriors' next step, subscribe to the channel now, because these types of updates change quickly and you won't want to miss out when the next piece of this puzzle drops. Leave a like too. This really helps the channel to continue bringing news and behind-the-scenes reading with real context, without fluff. Activate the bell to receive everything firsthand, and stay with me until the end, because I'm going to connect this information with the squad's scenario and explain exactly what this means in practice for the team and the season. If you're here with me now, I want you to take a deep breath before anything else, because what's going on behind the scenes of the Warriors is not the kind of subject that comes up every day. It's not a common roster update. It's not a routine rotation analysis. Nor is it just another generic rumor that dies within 24 hours. What is gaining momentum is the size of a historic turning point, the type of news that touches the hearts of fans and the entire NBA map at the same time. I know exactly how you've been feeling these past few seasons, because those who really follow the Warriors don't just live on nostalgia for the golden years. We live on expectations, demands, and a real affection for everything this team represents. E ao mesmo tempo, vamos ser honestos. Existe uma dor silenciosa que ficou no ar. That feeling that Steph's window won't stay open forever, and that each season that passes without a clear answer weighs like a stone on the conscience of those who love this franchise. We saw the team go through different phases. He saw the brilliance of the dynasty. He saw the reconstruction. He saw the focus on youth. He saw the effort to maintain identity and competitiveness in a league that never stops accelerating. And within this process, it was impossible not to get attached to the growth of guys like Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody, two players who, in many moments, represented fresh hope in a squad that needed new energy to sustain the present and fuel the future. And through it all, Steph continued to be Steph. Because the most impressive thing is not just the technical level, it is his insistence on defying any logic of age, wear, time. It's as if gravity behaves differently when he holds the ball. But there is one point that no fan ignores. Even though he is still capable of carrying games, seasons, and narratives, the weight cannot always be his alone. That's when the question appears in full force, and you may have already asked this question too. Can the Warriors get back to the top while Steph is still truly at his competitive peak? Is it possible to pursue another title with a squad that needs immediate impact and not just potential? Can you find that one piece that changes the team's level of threat overnight? What has now been painted as a possibility is precisely the most radical answer to this doubt. Because according to what is said behind the scenes of this type of large negotiation, the front office would be involved in a movement that is not made on impulse or on a whim. It's a franchise move that looks at the present and decides to bet everything on the power of a historic duo. When you look at Warrior culture, this doesn't exactly sound strange. This organization has shown in other times that it is not afraid of decisions that seem risky in the cold light of the next day. It was like that when they bet on Steph despite their physical doubts. It was like this in the construction of the nucleus that became a symbol of an era. It was like this in the ability to think big, act quickly, and attack opportunities before the entire league wakes up. And here comes a name that deserves special attention in this conversation: Mike Dunleavy Jr. Because the role of a general manager at these times is not just negotiating numbers and pieces, is to understand the moment of the franchise. It's reading the clock of a title window with brutal honesty. It's knowing that sometimes you're not putting together a squad for 5 years of gradual development. You're assembling a cast for a clash of greatness right now. Within this scenario, the theory circulating speaks of a heavy package, really heavy, the type of change that hurts for fans at first, because it involves names that we have seen grow, evolve, and promise a lot. And if this movement has actually happened, or if it is one step away from happening, it's natural that the first reaction is a mixture of excitement and chest tightness, because we are talking about the possibility of leaving the team Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, Andrew Wiggins, and valuable first-round picks. And you can't pretend that this is little. Kuminga has tools that any franchise would want. Moody is a player who can still surprise in his evolution. Wiggins, with all his fluctuations, has already been an impact player in big moments. First-round picks are, by definition, hope for the future. But here comes the part that separates good teams from teams that really try to be champions. When the chance arises to pair Steph Curry with a superstar of historic caliber, the thinking changes. The entire league changes. And if the name being discussed is Giannis Antetokounmpo, the conversation enters a level that has no place in timid comments. Because Giannis is not just a great player. He is a force that changes the design of any team, an athlete capable of dominating the paint, protecting the rim, running the court as if his size were different, and demanding that the opponent rewrite the defensive plan before the game even starts. And when you imagine this type of power-sharing space with the greatest pitcher of all time, your mind automatically tries to find a possible defense and doesn't find it. Think with me calmly. What happens to a defense when Steph is attracting marking meters from the three-way line, putting panic in every light screen, making the opponent choose between giving space or being punished? Now add that to Giannis attacking the rim at speed, with open space because the gravity of the Curry pulls the entire team out. It's just not a good combination. It's a combination that can be an ongoing nightmare for any tagging system. If you change the pick and roll, Giannis becomes a monster against smaller defenders. If you don't change, Steph finds the slightest gap and turns it into 3 points. If you double Steph, Giannis comes in with a free lane. If you close the carboy, the perimeter is exposed. That's why this type of duo is not just dominant, it is strategic, because it creates a game of impossible choices. And it's not just attack. What Giannis would bring defensively to the Warriors' identity is huge. The team has always valued versatility, collective reading, and changing markings. And then you add a defender who can anchor the ball, erase mistakes, chase players on the perimeter, and even intimidate anyone who thinks about attacking the basket. This raises the defensive ceiling in a way that few movements in the market can raise. At this point, a lot of people will ask about the fit with the rest of the cast, and I think that's a fair question. Because no title can be won with just 2 names, no matter how big they are. Then you look at what it would look like. Draymond Green, for example, would have a new type of partner to execute defense and read the game. 2 players with leadership instincts, physical presence, and a high-level understanding of what it means to play for victory. If that scenario comes to fruition, it's the type of duo that can stabilize the team when the playoff storm begins. And there would still be parts that make a difference in sustaining the system. Pitchers who benefit from double attention, power defenders, role players who gain role clarity when superstars arrive. Because this is also part of the impact of a change of this size, it simplifies the lives of many people in the cast. Of course, there is an emotional cost for fans when young names leave. There is a sense of what if, and I completely understand that. Because it is very beautiful to patiently follow the evolution of a project, imagine the future, build a connection with the growth of each athlete. But the NBA rarely rewards romance when a real chance at a title appears on the table. The central point is simple and stark. Steph's window is not eternal, and the franchise knows it. The fans know this. And sometimes history demands decisions that seem risky in the short term, but that makes sense in the larger map of legacy. On the Milwaukee side, if this move were real, it would be devastating. And this is a human aspect that cannot be ignored. Giannis handed over identity, handed over a title, handed over years of relevance. Losing a player like that is not just losing an athlete, it's losing an era. So it would be natural to see frustration, sadness, and even indignation there. But from the Warriors' point of view, the reasoning is different. If an opportunity of this size really opened up, the team is not just thinking about tomorrow. You're thinking about what you can achieve now. Is thinking about keeping the franchise at the center of the NBA universe for another cycle. Is thinking about how not to waste one of the last great chapters of a player who changed the sport. And then Steve Kerr comes in. Because if a combination of this level happens, the adjustment tactic becomes a spectacle in itself. Kerr is a coach who has worked with superstars under high pressure. He knows how to manage ego. He knows how to reorganize systems. He knows when to prioritize movement and when to accept a more direct solution. Integrating Giannis into an offense historically based on red and flow wouldn't be automatic. But it is exactly this type of challenge that separates good technicians from historical technicians. If this scenario were confirmed, the beginning would probably have natural oscillations. Chemistry is not born in a game. Habits don't change in a week, and no formula becomes a champion without a real adjustment period. However, with this level of talent and collective intelligence, the tendency would be to see rapid growth in the way the team finds its new balance. Now, look at the domino effect of this on the rest of the league. The West is already a competitive jungle by nature, and it would be inevitable to imagine other contenders trying to respond with moves of their own. Because a duo like Curry and Giannis forces the entire market to move. It's not just a trade that changes a team. It's a trade-off that could change the priorities of entire franchises. And, as a fan, there is a very strong emotional side to this story. Because the Warriors are not just a winning team from the recent past, they are an identity, a way to play, a collective memory of enormous moments. And the idea of seeing the team back with a force capable of putting genuine fear in any opponent rekindles a flame that was perhaps wavering within many people. So if you're listening to all this and thinking, that sounds too big to be true, I completely understand, because it really is. A move of this size, involving superstars, draft picks, and a reconfiguration of hierarchy, always carries layers of complexity. And until everything is correct and irrefutably confirmed, the right thing to do is to treat it with the care that this type of information requires. But what no one can deny is the size of the discussion. Because just the fact that this possibility generates so much noise already shows that the Warriors are, once again, positioned as a franchise that thinks big, a franchise that understands the historic moment of its greatest idol on the court and does not seem willing to live on memories. Basically, this whole conversation is about one word that defines the NBA: opportunity. And when an opportunity of this size appears, you choose between preserving the future or attacking the present with maximum force. There is no costless decision. There is no movement of this size without sacrifice. But there is a prize that makes everything seem logical when you reach it. If the idea of Curry and Giannis together comes to fruition, we will be in for a rare chapter. Those that we remember years later with the same emotion as the day we found out. Because it's not every day that a franchise manages to unite a genius on the perimeter with a force of nature in the paint and say to the entire league, we're back to compete for everything. And that's what I wanted to share with you today in this direct way, without unnecessary embellishment. Because you deserve to understand the weight of this issue clearly. Deserves to see what is at stake, what can change, and why this affects those who follow the Warriors with real attention. If you also feel that this is the kind of moment that could redefine the course of the season, and perhaps even the course of the decade for the franchise, then you already know it's worth paying attention to each development. Because when the next steps are clarified, the conversation will move beyond the realm of speculation and into the territory where the history of the NBA is written before our eyes. And that is exactly why this matter cannot be treated as just another rumor. If this window really is opening, we are facing one of those rare moments when a franchise decides its own destiny with a single move. É o tipo de virada que separa a temporada comum de temporada histórica. And if you're a Warriors fan, you know, when the team decides to act big, the impact doesn't just stop in the Bay Area. He shakes up the entire league. So keep this here. The next updates could change everything at once. Squad, hierarchy, game plan, title ambitions, and even the way rivals will need to prepare to face the Golden State. What is at stake now is not just news. It is a possible redefinition of path, and from here on, every detail matters. And if you want to stay up to date without missing any chapter of this story, go to the pinned comment and click on the Golden State Warriors News Today playlist. There I gathered exactly what you need to understand the complete scenario, with logical sequence, context, and the updates that really matter. Watch the playlist because this story doesn't end here. She's just getting started.